Hey, good morning. Almost afternoon. Actually, it is afternoon because I don't like acknowledging daylight savings time so damn much. How's it going, guys? It is Zerlath Eternal. And I'm on a trip up to New Haven today to go into the office for what was unfortunately a day of work. Um, because of my whole nausea incident at the sorting station. So, there's that. I should be good on Monday for working again and taking it from there. Gotta roll with the punches, as they say. So I'm just running live, running some thoughts. This isn't, as the title suggests, I don't know if this is gonna turn into something. I mean, I could always wander into something political that then might take out of political into meaningful. I am not ensorcelled by darkness, right? I don't spend really any time watching news. I get a handful of things from some ultra hardcore sources from here and there. I get a notable idea of an actual factual event happening, the basics of an actual event's occurrences and its effect on things. But I take a little bit in with the pundits that are in the limited hangout. I pay a little bit of attention to the limited hangouts. I think it's important for people that are that think they know how to do something in the realm of the zeitgeist, and the limited hangouts are the have very interesting and different and varying agendas. And I tell you what, some of these limited fucking hangouts, they also have better ideas, and I'm glad that people are listening to them instead, because I think that they can't, it's hard to describe, because I think that some of it is more indicative of a slow progression of consciousness. In short, like Dane Wigington has now talked to Tucker Carlson. Dane Wigington was as fringe a climate science researcher as you could ask for. I remember when Dane Wigington would give all sorts of time back in 2012 time period, when he was more first on the scene with Revolution Radio, my radio station, right? Consciousness that was there when Revolution Radio was in its initial rock star status, if you will. The early years when Nighthawk was still with us. As well as Truth Frequency Radio. There was a time where Kristen Shuri's production was great and what we needed for consciousness. And then it ran into its own, it ran into its own ontological brick wall. And because of that, it had to speculate on what was left of what it understood as real. That's about the best way I can fucking describe it. Because no offense to Christian Sharif, but unfortunately they, like everybody else, worshipped Trump for far too long. Couldn't step back and realize the damage they were doing to themselves through the conspiracy apologist, right? And this was meant to scoop everyone up, dramatically changing their political ideologies to be neocon sympathetic. And people are they're exploiting the Christian principle of forgiveness so neocons can show up, somehow, like, mostly have a change of rhetoric and tone, and then gaslight us into thinking that their policies on Israel and corporate cronyism is America first somehow, right? With no rational explanation how the sacrifices that we seemingly, willingly, wittingly wantingly give to the state of Israel, we don't have a real America First explanation. We just kind of talk about the strategic, military, and social value of the state of Israel, which is their cheap way of saying that we didn't do it for Zionism, because they could never admit that. Because to admit that would be to admit that they're religious fanatics passing laws based on psychotic, dogmatic values. The problem is, the atheist socialist type will use this as an excuse to tear down everything that is serving it without understanding the correspondent relationships. So, nationalism is an Israeli policy. And this is what terrifies me. Because if Trump is a Zionist and he's happy with the slaughter of Palestinians because he believes that Israel has a right to slaughter them over, like, what? They smirked at you the wrong way? They did something that insulted your Sabbath, perhaps. That is so innocuous that you can't believe that that's a murderable offense. Right? This is what happens when you take these snowflakes that you keep teasing. Imagine you give that fucking snowflake a gun, and then you've been teasing them forever, and you forget they're not felons of any sort. One day they may just choose to go get a gun in a state that will overlook all sorts of things about who and what they are, as per our very liberal gun laws in the south. No, it's backwards, isn't it? So at any rate, finally the country is seeing it for what it is, because originally we really we talked about it. There wasn't as good a coverage and understanding. We didn't really notice how the border situation worked. It always seemed like there was a legitimacy to the provocation. Then you look deeper into it, and you find all these fucking things about Hamas compromised by Mossad, to the point where you kind of start saying, wait a minute, is Hamas Mossad? Right? You know, like, and you're just like, dude, look at all these X, Y, and Z things. I want some fucking explanations. There's a slaughter fucking going on. Right? Trump's like, oh boy, peace. Oh boy, peace. One day later, there's a fucking another little bloody thing that happens. I think it hasn't escalated, but you know, there's that, right? Same thing with Iran, where it's just like, okay, we just got a peace deal, and then, you know, last second fucking airstrike from Israel in retort, in which I think Iran didn't counter-strike back. And I almost thought Trump was going to be not a Zionist, because he said they don't know what the fuck they're doing, and he dropped one of the hardest F-bombs I think a president had ever dropped was when Israel retaliated on Iran. But that doesn't matter. It's all fucking rhetoric. That's great. All right, it sounds like you were really angry at Israel, Donnie. Oh boy. You're just a cow mooing in the moonlight. That's all you are, Don. A lot of people theorize that we're in an alternate timeline, which also explains the betrayal of Trump, as we're on a timeline now where Trump is compromised and is now a Trump that maybe is mostly good domestically. And my point with the immigration thing is that, like, is just like what's happening with our deportees. It's a completely different scenario. You know, nobody has to be nobody's getting sandwiched into fucking Gaza into a kill box. They're being sent to another country that they're innocent in, that they can openly fucking live in and figure out what the fuck they're gonna do. And I can't imagine they're not taking, what was it, $1,000? He's given $1,000 for people to leave, and he's given $2,000 to people who are complaining about the government shutdown and 50-year mortgages. So, you tell me what is supposed to make all of that sound conservative enough, or even compassionate enough for a liberal. And the right is sadistically satiating every second of it. And I don't even think that Don is doing that to appeal to their fucking debasement of their character with their fuck yeah, I voted for this. It's just like, you know, so you lied to me then, because I was under the impression that Trump supporters, the voters, that most new conservatives or conservatives turning a leaf really wanted to fucking work something out for nonviolent immigrants on a certain level. And sure, the Democrats are crazy, but maybe there's also something they're failing to say to you that they are disappointed that you don't seem to comprehend. Because you got to remember, the core of the New Democrat Party is a deeply, zeitgeist of the modern American woman's mind is kind of the forefront of the Democrat Party as it has morphed into the role of a maternal psyche, right? I don't think that we had maternal, paternal political roles ever in this country until recent times. Like, I think this is the full fulmination of, I suppose it would even be first wave feminism. So I'm semi okay with this. I'm okay with the idea that one political party is going to be yin and one political party is going to be yang. And also this, I think, would fall into natural order of things. Because if you've been listening to my buddy James True talking about everything in his Turtle Island theory, is that these lands turn you into the new human, recreating the way people are or have been on this land. So we are, perhaps with fancier stuff, we are morphing into the same attitudes as probably the Iroquois Confederacy. You know, we're the Iroquois Confederacy with a standing army and big buildings and not as much respect for the natural world. But as far as our human behavior towards ourselves, each other, I think that's an emergent aspect of the folk soul that is going to be in the modern Native American. People, if you were born here naturally, you're a modern Native American, African American, Caucasian, Carpathian, whoever you are, you're the modern native. Just like at the time that the original natives were destroying the prior generation and the red-headed giants that lived here and stuff, and then they became the new natives. You have to go back to before the Ragnarok, before the Ice Age, to find civilizations that weren't in a state of conquest of each other, when we had the single family cohesion, and we had combat sport competition that was designed to be non-lethal. On a subtextual level, Cain and Abel was a story about how we went from basically athletic competitiveness and other forms of non-violent competitiveness to violent competitiveness, with the crazy idea that the one with the vegetable offering was inferior to the one of the blood sacrifice offering, which is also flipping something on its head, because although blood sacrifice is extraordinarily powerful, probably the most powerful thing that isn't killing, right? You offering yourself is the strongest. And this is why you offering yourself to yourself is the most undeniably strongest. And it's a question of when does that seem like it's your path on the literal sense, considering that we will not be immortal. We are eternal, but we're not immortal today. I came to a discovery this week. I can't remember if I mentioned it earlier, but I'm going to mention it now. Now I've had time to double check it, really settle it. Yeah, no, because I hadn't done the last thing I wanted to check yet, which was to make the measurements. So, my entire life, I've maybe mentioned this before, or I don't even know if it's been my entire life, but it's for a very, very long time. My right leg had always been about a half an inch longer than my left leg. And when I started seeing the chiropractor on the first checkup, that was noted. And as time is going on, this week I noticed that has been straightened out now. Something he cracked last week, or perhaps even the week before that, because of how things have been going, has aligned my legs. I no longer have this slightly off standing balance. I no longer have to shimmy my hips a certain way, almost unconsciously, just to stand straight. Now, there's only one downside to this. I have lost half an inch. I am now 5'5" and a half. I am no longer 5'6", because theoretically I never was 5'6", which makes sense. My father's side of the family, we're all shorties. We're very short Normans over here at 5'5" and a half. So, I'm going to round up and say I'm 5'6", because fuck that. It's a half an inch. I lied about half an inch, sue me. But I'm excited to see how this fixes other things as I go. What does it do for my jogging? What does it do for leg day? I had a leg day yesterday that went pretty well, right? If I've got this thing straightened out now, it means that any micro imbalances in how I differentiate weight, in my strength, training, body conditioning, all of that can be done evenly, because I am not putting extra weight on a longer leg. I can't imagine how many motherfuckers right now, because chiropractic is such an unimportant thing to the medical, like the serious big medical practice world. Like how much we avoid these things. Like, how many people just need a couple of little adjustments, and it don't cost that fucking much. And those little adjustments give them the ability to do a few things they couldn't do before. Like I'm getting sleep back because of adjustments that have helped my circulation when I'm sleeping. It's not perfect yet. I had a little bit of discomfort this morning, but it doesn't affect me in the middle of the night anymore. It doesn't affect me when I'm trying to fall asleep. And it doesn't hit absolute severity. either. I haven't had to get up and fucking rub my arm for fucking 20 minutes because I can't feel anything, along my fucking thumb, middle, and forefinger. Dude, like, oh my God, the fucking pain. Terrified of nerve damage, nerve ending damage. Talk about some bullshit. But this is why I do what I do on this channel and talk about all the little things. I talk all about the little things. I want somebody to come across me to hear me and say, oh, wait, little things like that with minor sacrifices have these little results and big results? Wow. And then you keep going with that. You know, sometimes it's harder in the beginning because you have to go through patiently a series of sacrifices. But then there comes a point where you've made enough of those kinds of sacrifices where everything that was really holding you back about the inauthentic you has been stripped away. And then you're not making as many sacrifices anymore because now you've lifted the load and you can take on the burdens of glorious purpose. And that's what I'm doing. I'm on my burden of glorious purpose. Hey, what's up, Nick? Yeah. A good mattress, I'm sure, can help. And it might be that I need to sleep on a harder mattress. But, I mean, like, I get very comfortable in the ultra soft mattress, but it might be that's the issue, right? Like, I'll put it to you this way. Now, the last couple of weeks, right? Like, there was a point where, before I was taking the chiropractor, where I couldn't even lay flat on my back without my hands going numb. Right? And I was fine laying flat on my back a few months prior, but that recently had fucking popped up from a lot of the fucking work I was doing under the floorboards. That big fucking crawl space job I was that I gauntleted through, and very proud of the work I did. So that's like under the hardest floor circumstances, and it's going numb. So the softness issue has something to do with it, because right now it's like if I can be on the floor, I can let my muscles and my nervous system fully go into like that atrophied kind of rest where you're meditating in a manner in which you're melting with the earth, you're letting gravity pull you in, right? You know, you're doing that. Because that's the state in which enough period of time, low enough heart rate, my hand would go numb. Because when you're meditating over time, part of it is also you lower your heart rate, there's less pressure going through your circulatory system, right? So this has to do with operating at a low heart rate. Because I think even if I'm still laying flat on my back, a long enough period of time, it might get a little bit discomforting. I wouldn't even say tingly, but like if I kept holding it, it would get tingly. But we're talking about after a very, very, very long period of time. Hey, what's up, Adam? Hold on a second, guys. All right. Oh, all right. That's it. Trying to read what you're saying. Government shutdown. Clear sky with no trails. Spraying started. Government shutdown ain't got dick to do with... Dude, government shutdown doesn't mean anything. Government shutdown, and yet we're still doing what we're doing with the military all over the place. It doesn't mean a goddamn thing. Government shutdown, like there's still critical federal government shit that's open. Also, your state government is not closed. I mentioned this somewhere else, but it had been going through in the news. So Connecticut made a point that any state could have followed. Just before the government shutdown ending vote was announced, the governor of this state said that he would inject the SNAP resources into the accounts anyway. So he could do that under threat of being sued by the federal government, but he could do that. And they wouldn't be able to stop him. They could only sue him for having done it. And I think that is an honorable, and this gets back to my point that this is a game, that no one ever starves in America anyway. And we're forgetting about what is the issue, because SNAP is a welfare issue. Welfare issues are Democrat issues. All right? Welfare and weather are the issues of the Democrats. War and profit are the issues of the Republicans. Now, war, we could simply say, is our strength and ability. We could make that more universal, less hostile, right? Because let's face it, if there's going to be one party for one thing and one party for another thing more predominantly, like they are gods and goddesses with their own stations, then war has a dual meaning, because there's always peace. And that's your strength and ability, which is how you apply your will, which is at the core essence of participating in war. Right. And chemtrails, chemtrails are being done through operations connected to money laundering, because they serve a globalist function. There's international money in chemtrails because it's aerospace, and and what we do affects the weather patterns of Canada, which is understood by the British Commonwealth, which also has their respective airspace. As well as various countries in South America, even though they don't necessarily have a whole lot going on. You know, South America is so jungly and mountainy that everything is guerrilla war. Over there, there's very little reason for a lot of fucking, vehicles, overland vehicles. But they don't have the, but they don't have the Air Force, that they need to handle going over the mountains and over the jungles on a hardcore basis, right? So that's why you see all these places the way they are, and why you get a lot of large cities, and some of the places where they can develop a city, they get huge for people that don't want to live in the wildlife, in which they want to make that very appealing, because if they hate anything, they hate the pagan man, the rural man, the man of the land. They want to turn the pagan into the proletariat or something, the laborer. The common folk of the working class, opposed to the common folk of the land. That's the kind of common man that they want. A common man on the grid, not a common man off the grid. Yeah. So, 3 years is a long time. There's going to be a lot of shit that's happened, and the way people say this thing looks bad, that thing looks bad, all of that can turn around. I mean, it may not turn around next year, but it will. I think that there's I think that this is just part of this continued implosion of the old Republican Party, whether Trump cares about the old Republican Party or not. That it's just going to, because the anti-Zionist attitude is absolutely predominant. There's too many basic factual things. And so a lot of people are rightly worried, myself as well, that there's going to be another big psyop coming to protect something about Israel. Maybe the thing that protects Israel's already happened with this event, but there's also perhaps a political threat that changes things, because the Likud party, may be in trouble with how Netanyahu's been treated, and that may take some time to shift in the consciousness of the Knesset. I think the Knesset is the assembly of Israel's government. And because I'm going to imagine that Bibi's going to get away with his murder, but at what cost? Sometimes I wonder that maybe our freedom is coming at the cost of them saving themselves from the destruction of what they've already done, as we move through with kind of these kangaroo courts. And the kangaroo courts are not pushing incrimination, but pushing to absolvements, right? Where even if they found guilty in the court, there's pardons coming and things like that. But then the kind of deal making involved may turn things around, and then you get what you want out of the monster anyway. And it's like you kind of feel nasty about thanking him, right? It's just like, I don't know how good I can feel about thanking Trump for laying off of weed and promoting weed, but I've been asking for the fucking world to be like that, where it just simply does, and it's great to see the shift. And, you know, there's always going to be the doomsaying about it, right? A lot of people thought it would be the worst idea for certain kinds of corruption in the government and whatnot if weed got legalized, because then they could take the tax money and the government becomes more powerful. Yes. But it's, you know, their ability to tax you for keeping you in jail is a greater power than them being able to tax the product that you smoke. Instead, in which the only thing that's lost is a little extra money for the cost of government existing, and, you know, doing the things that are not oppressive to you, that you want them to do. Right? So, better circumstances for real. So anyway, I gotta figure out exactly which exit I'm getting off of soon. So I'm gonna let you go. I'm gonna rename this and keep it up. I kind of like the way this one went down. All right. I'll catch you guys later.